It began at a petrol station and moved down the road. 3 locations, 1 dead, 5 wounded, and a country already stretched across multiple war fronts, absorbing another attack from within. The gunman was 21, an Arab Israeli, and he is dead. The National Security Minister already knows what he wants to do next. It began at a petrol station and moved down the road, leaving a trail of wounded across 3 locations in the Sharon region, northeast of Tel Aviv, on the morning of June 7th. 1 person was killed, and 5 others were wounded after a shooting attack unfolded across several locations in Israel's Sharon region, prompting a major security operation and temporary shelter-in-place orders for nearby communities. Israeli police said the attack began at a petrol station in Kochav Yair, near the West Bank city of Kalkilia, before continuing toward Tzur Yitzhak, Tzur Natan, and nearby roads northeast of Tel Aviv. The suspected attacker was identified as 21-year-old Omar Yassin, an Arab Israeli from the city of Tayibe. Police said he was killed by security forces following the attack. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir used the attack to renew calls for the implementation of Israel's recently approved death penalty legislation for convicted terrorists.
If the terrorist is caught alive, he will be executed. This is the law, and we will demand its enforcement. This is precisely why Jewish Strength enacted the death penalty for terrorists law. Jewish blood is not forfeit. Whoever murders a Jew will see the hangman's noose.
The victim killed in the shooting was a man in his 30s who was critically wounded near Tzur Natan and later pronounced dead. 2 people suffered serious injuries and 3 others were moderately wounded. All 5 casualties were evacuated to Meir Medical Center in Kfar Saba and Rabin Medical Center's Beilinson campus in Petah Tikva. Police said the gunman used a vehicle with Israeli license plates and opened fire at multiple locations before being tracked down. Officers later recovered the suspect's vehicle and the weapon believed to have been used in the attack. First responders said they were conducting a major emergency exercise nearby when reports of the shooting began arriving.
At the gas station near Kochav Yair, we began treating a man about 50 in serious condition and a man about 30 in moderate condition. At another scene on Route 5533, we treated another man in critical condition and another wounded person who was evacuated in serious condition. We immediately stopped the exercise and left with intensive care, vehicles and ambulances to the gas station in Kochav Yair, to Tzur Yitzhak and to Tzur Natan.
Israeli security forces, including police, the Israel Defense Forces and the Shin Bet Security Agency, carried out searches across the area while the military imposed restrictions and conducted operations around Tayibe and nearby Palestinian villages. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a security assessment following the attack. Leader of the opposition in Israel, Yair Lapid, also expressed solidarity to trace out the terrorists involved in deadly multi-site shooting.
I just spoke with Hila Ben Horosh Hakmon, head of the Yair Tzor Yigal Regional Council, received a briefing on the council's activities since the terror attack began this morning, and strengthened her and her staff. Terror will not defeat us.
The attack comes amid heightened security tensions across Israel and the West Bank, where authorities remain on alert for further violence as fighting continues on multiple regional fronts. An American-born former Israeli soldier has died by apparent suicide, adding to growing concerns over the psychological toll of Israel's wars in Gaza and Lebanon. According to the Times of Israel, 23-year-old Alex Miller died in Miami after struggling with trauma linked to his military service in the Israeli army. Miller had served in the IDF's Kfir Brigade and was wounded in a 2022 car-ramming attack in the occupied West Bank. Despite undergoing rehabilitation, he later returned to military service. Israel's defense ministry confirmed that Miller had been officially recognized for physical injuries sustained in the attack, but not for psychological trauma.
Miller requested and received recognition for physical wounds sustained in the attack, but not for mental trauma.
Reports also said that Miller was deeply affected by the death of his close friend, Sergeant First Class Noam Shemesh, who was killed in Gaza in 2025. Alex's father, Danny Miller, described the emotional burden his son had been carrying.
I don't get it. I have invested my entire life in raising and nurturing him. We had a lot of conversations about the attack, but apparently the attack and Noam's death broke him. Even though he didn't admit it, he suffered a lot.
The Tzur Regional Council in the occupied Golan Heights also acknowledged the unseen trauma Miller had endured.
The invisible trauma that Alex quietly carried with him without letting others know of its volume eventually defeated the young warrior who had his whole life ahead of him. We mourn this terrible loss, share in the family's profound grief, and send a big embrace to his dear father, Danny Miller, during this unbearably difficult time.
Miller's death comes amid a broader rise in among Israeli soldiers and veterans since the October 7th war in 2023. The numbers reveal a growing crisis inside the Israeli military. According to the data, 22 Israeli soldiers and officers died by in 2025, the highest annual figure in more than a decade. That follows 21 recorded in 2024. In 2023, the number stood at 17, with Israeli media reports noting that 7 of those deaths occurred after the October 7th Hamas attack and the outbreak of the Gaza war. A Knesset Research and Information Center report found that between January 2024 and July 2025, 279 active soldiers attempted. Israeli military officials have admitted the army is struggling to contain the crisis.
At the beginning of the war, we thought we had the situation under control, and it blew up in our faces.
Activists and mental health experts have accused the military of scaling back psychological support, despite rising trauma cases among combat troops and reservists. The IDF, however, said it views the mental health of soldiers and reservists as part of its operational responsibility as concerns continue to grow over the long-term human cost of the war. More than 6,000 Israeli soldiers reportedly filed complaints of mistreatment in just 2025. Israel's Defense Ministry Ombudswoman has released a stark annual report detailing widespread misconduct, indifference to soldiers' mental distress, and a sharp rise in complaints from career officers. According to Channel 12, in the 2025 annual report submitted February 23rd by Brigadier General Racheli Tevet-Wiesel to Defense Minister Israel Katz and the Knesset Foreign Affairs, 6,621 complaints were filed in 2025, broadly in line with 2024. While the overall volume was comparable to 6,777 complaints filed in 2024, as per the report, the most striking trend was a 40% spike in complaints from career officers compared to 2 years ago. 58% of career officer complaints were found justified, above the overall average of 52%. 31% of those officers cited low pay as a primary grievance. The complaints ranged from deficient vehicle protection and blocked medical treatment to invasion of privacy, racism, misuse of military drivers for personal errands, and prolonged security clearance delays. Tevet-Wiesel described the surge as a structural concern.
This is a warning signal that requires action to ensure that, alongside the expectation of totality from permanent service members, especially after 2 years of intense and exhausting activity, the military authorities are working to ensure that their rights are preserved and that their care is complete and professional.
As per the annual report 2025, 35% of complaints concerned command and leadership issues, including physical and verbal violence, inappropriate remarks, and failure to implement medical guidance. Complaints cited in report: one reserve soldier reported a racist remark during a call.
It's hard for me to work with these two autistic Russians.
The investigation found the statement had indeed been made and deemed it a serious incident. In another case, a soldier who expressed suicidal thoughts to a commander was allegedly told,
Then kill yourself. Take the weapon and kill yourself.
in cases involving racist remarks, most allegations centered on humiliating or derogatory comments, rather than formal discrimination. Some commanders were accused of repeated inappropriate statements, only facing consequences after formal complaints were filed. In a separate incident reported by the Jerusalem Post in February 2, 2026, a commander responded to a distressed soldier by telling him to die by suicide.
So commit suicide. Take your weapon and commit
The commander was formally reprimanded, with the sanction added to her permanent record. The report also details physical misconduct. During operations in Lebanon, a company commander cut a soldier's pants with a knife in front of the unit after spotting a uniform issue, injuring him in the process. In another case, a commander allegedly fired an air rifle at a subordinate during an operational activity. The latter case was referred to military police. Another complaint described soldiers being ordered into a building containing asbestos with only basic masks, contrary to safety guidelines requiring specialized protective gear. The report concludes that many justified complaints stem not from flawed military policy, but from failures in implementation, highlighting gaps between regulations and conduct on the ground. The report paints a troubling portrait of discipline breakdowns, leadership failures, and mounting strain inside Israel's armed forces.